Hello, this is Spartan Commander, and this is the 269th Rome Total War Brotherhood game that I've put onto YouTube. This game was supplied by Greeks member Cleomenes and was fought 2 to 3 years ago. Okay, the first person in the team is Titan's 2 Mega Therion, who has bought the Rome SPQR faction. I think that might be a Titan's Beast, but we'll see by the tactics as a battle when the battle unfolds. Their next teammate is COH Dabby, and he has bought the Seleucid faction. Let's just have a quick look at his army. If you look at the upgrades on this pikeman, can you see he's got 8 upgrades? So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. So these pikemen are very tough. As you know, Seleucid haven't got a lot of morale, but with those 2 experience stripes on there, I think that will really help these pikemen during the course of the battle. And as we looked at before, you can see the length of these pikes that the Seleucid pikemen bring, very long, and of course Roman troops have to fight their way all the way down those pikes to kill the men on the other end. And then we have a look at the Seleucid archers. They're only short range, but I think they're quite essential to bring, really, to protect the big pike units from missile fire, as they're very susceptible to casualties. And then we go to the infamous cataphract cavalry. As you can see here, he's got 7 upgrades on his cavalry, so that's an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. And as you can see there, these cataphracts are armoured from head to toe, and that's why we call them the tanks of the ancient world, because of all that armour on them. And I think he's got 6 units of those cataphracts. So I think all in all, that's a pretty good Seleucid army. Should be interesting to see how well it does during the course of the battle. Their third teammate is Titan's Hades, and he has bought the Rome Scipio faction. I noticed that he's bought 2 archer units within that army. And their fourth teammate is the supplier of this battle, and that is Greeks Cleomenes, and he has bought the Macedon army. Well, let's just have a quick look at his army there. As you can see, he's also got 8 upgrades on his pikemen, so that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. And if you say again, look at the long pikes, they have the same length pikes as a Seleucid pikeman there. So very good pikeman. Then we have the Cretan archers. Once again, Cretan archers essential, I think, to cover their big pike units from missile fire. And then also Cleo's got the companion cavalry, and if you notice, the companion cavalry have got 8 upgrades. So that's 2 experience stripes, gold shield, gold attack. These companion cavalry are sometimes called the winged horsemen because of the wings on their helmets. So that looks a pretty good Macedonian army to me, and he's got 4 cavalry units. Let's say this battle was fought 2 to 3 years ago and has the ingredients to be an absolute classic, and I hope you enjoy it. And here is the other team. We have RTW player Odin. A lot of you will know that Odin is now in the Titans clan, but when this battle was fought, he was just a RTW, just ordinary RTW player, and was not in a clan. Just like to draw your attention to 3 of his units here, and they are the Triarii units. Now these are Roman anti-cavalry units. You very rarely see them on the 31k battlefield. I think veterans would agree that it seems with these units that no matter how many upgrades you put on them, they never seem to do very well on a 31k battlefield. I've seen these units actually rout when they've been fully upgraded by cavalry hits, and they're they have got an anti-cavalry bonus in their specifications, but they just don't seem to be that good on the 31k battlefield. So it'd be interesting to see how well they do during the course of the battle. Nice to see an unusual unit brought to the 31k battlefield though. Their next teammate is Brotherhood member Vet Plague. Now, I haven't seen Vet Plague play for a couple of years now, but he was a very good player of his time, and I see that he's bought the Rome Brutio faction. Their next teammate is Brotherhood member Conan. Now, a lot of you will know Conan and another Brotherhood member called Cannon started the Brotherhood clan all the way back in January 2005. And those firm foundations that those two put down has led to the longevity of the Brotherhood, still very successful even today, all these years on. Okay, let's have a quick look at his army. You might notice here he's got 4 archer units. I think the reason he's bought these 4 archer units is because they're up against Seleucid and Macedon. And I think he's going to try and inflict a lot of casualties on those big pike units with these archer units. And let's have a look at his cavalry there. If you notice that Conan's cavalry's got 7 upgrades, so he's got an experience stripe, gold shield, gold attack. So all in all, that's a pretty good army there. My guess is that Conan's probably built that as a custom army to take on those pike factions there. Their fourth teammate is Heaven's Mohammed. As you know, Heaven's is in the Mohammed is in the Titans clan now, but when this battle was fought, he was in the Heavens clan. So there's the other team there. As I say, with all these great players in this battle, it really has the ingredients to be a classic, and I hope you enjoy it. Okay, at this very, very early stage of the battle here, you can see that the Titans SBQR player, who I believe is yes, we know that that is Beast there, I think. The only reason I say that is because of the aggressive attacking way that he's moving his army over there. So my guess is that is probably Beast there, and he's moving up towards the Julii army here, Mohammed. It wouldn't surprise me if this SBQR player tried a left flanking action here. As I say, I do suspect that's Beast, and we'll soon see by the aggressive attacking tactics if it is him. If you notice here, Conan's archers here, he's already targeting the big pike units of the Seleucid faction. Remember, those big pike units are very susceptible to archer fire, and that's one of the reasons I'm sure that he's bought those amount of archers there. But if you notice, these archers are already being whittled down by some Macedonian Cretan archers over there on the other team. Right, can you notice that the SBQR general here is bringing some units around here, as I said, in a left flanking action, and he's bringing his cavalry round to back up that infantry as well. Now, usually when enemy cavalry comes into range of an archer unit, usually the general with the archer unit usually targets a cavalry unit there, because he knows he can inflict a few casualties. So if you notice here, can you see that Conan's firing arrows into that one cavalry unit? But it'll be interesting to see how that cavalry unit responds, whether it'll be aggressive. There you go. If you notice there, the SBQR player charging that cavalry unit in to take out that archer unit. Now you might notice that Conan's got his cavalry just very close to that where that SBQR cavalry unit's attacking. My only guess is that he didn't attack with his cavalry is because he might have missed that particular part of the battlefield, what was going on. Or maybe because there's so many SBQR infantry and cavalry there, he might have decided not to have attacked. Let's say you can see there's some Macedon companion cavalry moved over, and you can notice that the SBQR general is moving infantry units further towards the Julii infantry there. Lots of pilot exchanges going on. As you can see, those pilots are coming in almost like rain there, causing a lot of casualties to that pilot shield unit. Right, if you notice here, Conan's moving his cavalry back. Probably looking for an advantageous place to put them there. Probably guessing that SBQR player would like to carry on round in a flanking action, but if he moves his cavalry there, Conan could threaten that advance. Let's say if the SBQR player carried on going round there in a flanking action, his flank would be at risk of being hit by Conan's cavalry. So that's a nice tactical move there by Conan and his cavalry. To stop that advance. Okay, let's pause the game for a second, take stock of exactly what's going on. As you can see here, there's quite a large build-up of enemy troops, both infantry and cavalry here on this left flank. As we move over to the left centre, where the Seleucids are facing the Julii troops there, not a lot going on. I think a lot of these Seleucid pikemen have suffered a lot of casualties there by archer fire and probably some pilot fire there. Over onto the right centre, not a lot going on. Over on the right flank, you can see that the Brutii general there is moving units forward into Testudo. In Testudo, they're moving forward into the pike ranks there. Probably trying just to push into those forward pike units there by using the Testudo formation. There's a close-up of the Testudo forcing its way into that pilot shield pike unit there. So there's an overall view of the battle at this very early stage of the battle. As I say, it wouldn't surprise me if this left flank looks to me like it's all set for action. My guess is that when the battle kicks off, this is where it's going to happen. Just looking at the position of the enemy troops and the way that the Julii army is set up in a defensive position there. So, as I say, it wouldn't surprise me if the action did kick off here. If you notice there, the SBQR general's putting a couple of units up to face Conan's cavalry to stop any flanking attack by his cavalry. As you can see, there's still a little bit of skirmishing going on. There's one of the Julii units in Testudo has just been attacked by some SBQR troops, just nibbling away at those forward units. I say, if you look on the rest of the battlefield, there's not a lot going on. Over on the right flank, as I said, the Brutii generals moved some units into Testudo, into those pike units. As a Testudo hits the pikes, it comes out of Testudo there and is starting to fight the pike units there. Of course, if you force your way into those pikes in Testudo, you can then start using your swords, and it very often can be a sword v sword battle there. Okay, meanwhile, back over on the left, you're just going to pause the game for a second, just to show you what's happening. Can you see that the Seleucid general's moving his cataphracts over very slowly? Some people move their cavalry over very slowly in hope that the enemy don't see that. Now, my guess is that he's moved that cavalry over there in preparation for a big hit on the Julii army there. Let's say he moved his cavalry over very slowly there, in the hope that maybe it's not noticed. If you notice, there's some Seleucid pikemen being moved across as well, which says to me that this left flank here is going to get hit pretty hard pretty soon. Right, can you see those Scipii cavalry, a couple of Scipii cavalry units going into that Testudo unit? The way and power that's going through wouldn't surprise me. Yes, if it goes on through, those Scipii units have gone on through into the front of the Julii battle line there. If you notice here, can you see that the Julii general's attacking here on the left flank with some of his units? Let's just pause the game for a second. As I say, here you can see the Julii general attacking here on the left flank with some of his units. You can see the SBQR cavalry and Macedon cavalry there ready to pile in. As you can see here, the SBQR infantry and Scipii cavalry have hit the forward ranks of this Julii army. There's some more cavalry coming in, and can you see the cataphracts, the tanks of the ancient world, charging in as well? I can see that Conan's team's got their cavalry ready to counterattack if needed, but it looks like it's going to be a massive hit here on this left flank. Okay, can you see the SBQR cavalry charging in? And then can you see the tanks of the ancient world, those cataphracts cavalry charge in, and bang, as that cavalry hits. You can see that the Seleucid cavalry is really penetrating that Julii line, routing loads of Julii infantry units there. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. So you can see that those cataphracts have just charged in there and routed loads of those Julii infantry there, making a big hole in that battle line. There's SBQR infantry as well as Scipii cavalry all charging in there. As you can see here, you've got SBQR infantry and cavalry and Macedon cavalry ready to charge in as well. The Julii general, I think Mohammed's been routed, so the morale of his troops will drop. So things are not looking very good here on the left flank of Conan's team here. If you notice that Conan is now counter-attacking with his cavalry, but if you notice the Seleucid cavalry has just pulled back in time so not to get hit by that counter-attack. Okay, at this time you can see most of the, let's just pause the game for a second, you can see most of the Julii infantry, Mohammed's Julii infantry that was holding this left flank has now been routed, and it looks like the enemy team has almost captured this left flank. I noticed that the Brutii generals counter-attacking with cavalry, and you've got Conan's cavalry charging as well. But I think maybe whoever wins on this left flank could go on to win the battle. So on this left flank, whoever wins could be pivotal to the outcome of this battle. As you can see, that fresh Macedon cavalry charging into the flank of that Julii, engaged Julii infantry there, as that hits. So I say at this time, Conan's teammates here and team seem to have lost this left flank. And as I say, whoever wins on this left flank, as I say, could go on to actually win the battle here. You can see Vet Plague attacking with his Brutii cavalry there. There's Julii cavalry involved and Julii infantry. Right, can you see the cataphracts charging back in again? There's SBQR cavalry charging. This is a massive cavalry battle here, mostly on this left flank. Some infantry thrown in as well, but mostly cavalry. You can see those cataphract cavalry hit, and bang as they go in. Right, can you see Conan's general has now been routed, so once again all his troops' morale will drop. Can you see the Brutii cavalry counter-attacking as well? This is some kind of massive cavalry battle here on this left flank. And I think both teams know whoever wins here could go on to win the battle, looking at the resources being thrown in. Right, can you see that Macedon cavalry is just about to charge in? You can see this Brutii cavalry charging in as well. There is some infantry in amongst that lot. I can see some Julii infantry moving in, and there's some SBQR infantry moving over to this particular part of the battle. But as you can see, it is a massive cavalry, some massive cavalry hits going in here. As I say, I think both teams realise that whoever wins this battle on this left flank, the outcome could be pivotal to what's going to happen afterwards. Whoever wins here could roll the other team up from this flank to the other flank. So that's why so many resources are being thrown into this particular part of the battlefield. Remember that Conan's team has actually lost this left flank, but they're doing their best to try and recapture it. You see the Brutii cavalry counter-attacking, and you've got some Triarii spearmen that were thrown in there as well. But if we notice now, if we look at the battlefield now, all of a sudden things seems to have changed on this left flank. Let's just pause the game for a second. Now we saw that Titans, Mohammed there's infantry got routed there, and Conan's team looked like they lost their left flank. But it looks now that with a counter-attack they brought in with their cavalry and infantry support from Conan, that they've managed to recapture that left flank and have routed most of the enemy troops on that left flank. So they've done really well there to kind of recapture it after being routed there on that left flank. So that's absolutely really good for Conan's team. You see in the left centre here, Conan's got some troops fighting with the Seleucid pikemen there. Got one unit he's going to pull in behind that engaged unit there. But also, if you notice, he's thrown some Julii units into the front of these pike units. Now I think he's done that to stall those units moving forward, because they could move round the rear of his infantry there. So I think he's thrown them in just to stall them. Over here on the right centre, you can see the Brutii infantry really fiercely engaged with the Scipii infantry there. And over on the far right, you can see that the other Brutii team there, army there, is engaged with the Macedon army. So at the moment there's a lot going on all over this battlefield. Just like to draw your attention to the dead there. Can you see that line of Macedon dead? My guess is that was done by pilot damage there, so the Macedon army would have been weakened considerably by the pilot damage. So there's a general overview of the battle at the moment. But as I say, Conan's team seem to have lost that left flank, and it looked pretty dire for them. But now they seem to have regrouped and counter-attacked and recaptured that left flank, routing most of the enemy on that left flank. So really well done to Conan's team there. As I said, whoever won on this left flank could go on to win the battle. So it'll be interesting to see what transpires from this particular part of the battlefield here. If you notice, Conan's moving some of his units back in to attack the rear of those engaged Seleucid troops there. You see that SBQR cavalry unit charging into the back of those engaged Julii troops. If you notice there, a lot of the Seleucid troops have been forward charged into the attack with their swords only, not pikes. So that was the urgency that the Seleucid general attacked. He didn't put his pikes down, like he's just charged in with swords. He's moving his cavalry, and his cataphract cavalry are charging in as well. As I say, I think both teams realise the importance of this left flank. They're throwing everything in. Both teams are throwing everything in here to try and win on this particular flank. There's those Odin's brought over some of those Triarii units there, probably to counter the cavalry hits that you've seen from those Seleucid cataphracts, and you can see that Macedon cavalry there as well. Okay, I've just seen that the Seleucid general has been routed. So as we know, the Seleucid morale is not very good anyway. So with the general killed, that morale is going to lower even more. Right, let's just pause again for a second. Let's say you just saw the Seleucid general just been routed there. Now what I think's happened, most of the enemy infantry on this flank has now been routed. Yes, there's a little bit of enemy cavalry left, but not a lot. So what I would suggest is that all this team here, the green and reds, move over to the right flank to help their allies here. If they can move over there quickly, they've got a good chance of going into the rear of engaged enemy troops. There's no need now to hang around on that left flank because most of the infantry has been killed at the enemy team. So now you just need to get reinforcements over onto this right flank. As you can see, the Brutii army here is fighting viciously with the Scipii army, and over on the far right you can see that the Brutii General has actually got units in behind Macedon there, but Macedon's Scipii ally has sent reinforcements to help. So actually it could be whoever wins on this flank will go on to win the entire battle. But as you can see here, the Brutii General's attacking the Macedon pikemen head on there with a lot of force, and he's still got 3 units in reserve there. But if you notice, this one pike unit is moving in from the side. Just say once again, look at those Macedon dead there, which would have been killed mostly by Pila and maybe some archer fire there. So the Macedon army was greatly weakened by missile fire before they actually got into the hand-to-hand battle. So there's a general overview of what's actually happening. But I think the Julii and Brutii troops over on that left flank need to move over to this right flank as soon as possible to help their allies. There's no more enemy infantry over there, or very few enemy infantry. No need to stay over there now. Okay, they've got the cataphract cavalry there, but I think they need to move over to the right now to help their teammates. Okay, can you see the Brutii cavalry here? It's being attacked by both Macedon and Seleucid, but I noticed that the Seleucid and Macedon cavalry units were very battle damaged. So it's be interesting tussle to see what happens here. As you can see, most of the Seleucid cavalry have gone now, and I think both of the Macedon cavalry have gone. Okay, right, so that's all the cavalry, all the enemy infantry have been taken out on this left flank. It's now imperative to get back over to the right. Speed is the essence, as that old saying says, because if they don't get over here to support their allies, they could have won on the left flank but may lose on the right. So they need to move, because you see that the Seleucid, the enemy Seleucid pikeman's general, has seen what's happening, so he's running his pikemen over here as fast as he can. If you notice, this one Brutii army is basically surrounded by enemy troops. How long that's going to hold now, I don't know. If you notice, a lot of its units are starting to rout. The general's still alive, but a lot of its units are starting to rout already. As I say, for the Julii and infantry and that Brutii cavalry over there, speed is the essence. They need to get over to this right flank, or they'll find that their teammates will probably have been taken out. Let's say you can see that the pike units are closing in on this Brutii army here. And also you've got Scipii infantry attacking as well. And those Seleucid pikemen that they ran over from that left flank are now engaged with the Brutii infantry. So there's a lot of pressure on this Brutii infantry at the moment. I noticed that both the Brutii generals are still alive at the moment, so they're still giving morale to their troops. But how long they'll stay alive with this massive attack coming on to them, I don't know. There you go. One of the Brutii generals there, I think it's Odin's, just been routed.
Way for a leader to behave, but in battle it is beyond belief.
It looks to me like Conan's team lost the left flank, then won on the left flank, and then it's moving over to the right flank, but their teammates now, after a ferocious battle, have lost the right flank. So Conan and Mohammed and the Brutii cavalry, let's just pause the game for a second. I've got to try to take these guys on the right flank now after their win. So I think we're going to move into phase 2 of the battle now, where we're going to see, if you like, Conan's teammates that have won on the left flank here facing the enemy team who have won on the right flank. So it'll be interesting to see the tactics that are used here. As you can see, the Julii infantry and Brutii cavalry have just got over here just a little bit too late, because all their Brutii allies on this right flank have just been routed. So as I say, we're going to move into phase 2 of the battle now. It'll be interesting to see exactly what tactics are used by these teams. Every single infantry or cavalry unit left is very battle damaged. Okay, if you notice here, the enemy are putting their pikes out the front, because they want to encourage attack onto their onto their pikes. And if you notice that the Scipii army is behind, ready to cover the flanks of those pikes units. If the enemy tries to move round the flanks, then these guys at the back will counter that attack. So that's a nice tactical move there by the enemy team. As I say, trying to encourage the enemy to attack them head on the pikes. And if they try and go around the flanks, those Scipii infantry will cover the flanks there. So it's a nice tactical move there by the enemy team. Right, if you notice, can you see the Seleucid pike generals moving those pikes forward in an aggressive attacking manner? It wouldn't surprise me if the Julii general put his units into Testudo, what he's just doing, the other units into Testudo there. That's the classic defence of a Roman general against advancing pike units. It kind of slows up and disrupts the pike battle line. Can you see these Brutii infantry just charging into the flank of that pike unit there, but have now been routed? So say it's all up in the air at the moment. If you were a betting person, which way do you think you'd put your money on for this particular ending of this battle? You can see a lot of pikemen and units going out. Right, can you see that Odin has still got his 3 Triorii units there, and basically they're all intact, haven't suffered hardly any casualties at all. Now, will those Triorii units be the saviour of his team? He's keeping them back, ready to throw in when needed there. If you notice at the course of the battle here, you can see there's still a lot of Julii units left. You can see that the Brutii cavalry is still a very potent force. They're all battle damaged, but hitting at the right place, surgical hits, could cause a lot of enemy casualties still. Okay, can you see he's going to charge that Brutii cavalry in, and bang as it hits. Also, there's a Julii infantry hit as well. Nice combination of Julii infantry and green Brutii cavalry there. Caused a lot of casualties and routed several of those of the enemy units there. But if you notice, there's some pike units been turned. Those Seleucid pike units have turned their pikes in on the cavalry. They've managed to rout Hades' general. So, like we said before, all those Scipii troops will now, their morale will now drop. Right, now I'm just going to pause the game here and just look at the general battle disposition here. And I'm going to say to veterans, ask veterans here what they think, their advice here. Right, as you can see here, there's a lot going on. But can you see these 3 Triorii units here? Now they're just sat there at the moment, kind of out of the battle. Now I don't know whether they're being kept as a tactical reserve, but I think at this stage of the battle they need to charge into the rear of those engaged pikemen. I think that, see, those pikemen now are engaged with those Julii infantry. Now if those Triorii units ran over, they could get into the back of those units, and between them they might be able to rout all those units. I don't know what veterans watching this would think. Possibly that might be a good tactic to do. But just looking at the rest of the battlefield here, you can see a lot of the Julii forces are still engaged with the Scipii infantry and the Macedon infantry there. But as I say, I think those Triorii units, I don't know whether the Triorii general has missed them, has forgot about them, but now would be the time to run them over and get into the back of those engaged Seleucid infantry. See, Conan's bringing his cavalry general over. I think he spotted that. It wouldn't surprise me if he charged into... There you go. You can see Conan charging his cavalry into the back. He knows what should be done there. And just think, if those Triorii units are charged in, the Seleucid morale is low. My guess is that those Seleucid units may have routed on impact with those Triorii units hitting them. So the only thing I can think of is maybe the Brutii generals forgot that they're there, maybe.
Great God be praised! The enemy general is killed!
Okay, can you see the Triorii units are now being moved forward, but maybe at this stage of the battle, might be a little bit late. Right, there's a nice combination of Triorii, Brutii Triorii, and cavalry hitting those 2 Scipio units. Nice combination hit there with the cavalry and those Triorii. Now, as I say, these Triorii units have kind of been rested. They haven't been fighting. They're pretty well intact. Now, could they be the saviour of their team here? Be interesting to see. As you can see, their little spears, the Triorii spears, are no match for those long pikes that the Macedon and Seleucids have got.
The enemy general is running away. This is not... The enemy army is in flight. Pursue them.
Okay, all of
the battlefield.
All of the Brutii allies now. The last 2 Julii units have been routed. So now it's just down to the Triorii that are left. I think there's a couple of Brutii, very battle damaged Brutii cavalry units left as well. There's a close up of the Triorii fighting those long pikes. But can you see the casualties that they're suffering going against those long pikes? It wouldn't surprise me if they routed right. There's the last Brutii cavalry charging in, bang as that cavalry hits, going for the Macedon general there, as you could see, but unfortunately he just didn't have the numbers to cause any problems there. Right, let's just pause the game for a second. I just want to show you the intensity of this battle here. Now, this was a 4v4 large, as you can see, and right from one flank to the other, you can see how intense the fighting has been. Piles upon piles of dead enemy and allied troops here, all the way around the battlefield here. Especially on the flanks, I noticed. In the centre, not so many. If you notice here in this area here, you see not so many piles of dead. But as we move over to the flanks, once again, you can see the massive piles of dead. You see these Seleucids, a big line of Seleucids there. Most of those would have been killed by archer fire and pilot fire there. As we move further over to the flank, I think that was where that massive cavalry battle took place in the early stages. There you go. And if you look closely, you can see it's mostly all cavalry that are in this particular part. Remember, that's where we saw those massive cavalry hits going in on this left flank, as both teams seemed to think that winning this flank was going to be the pivotal part of the battle, and they were going to go on to win. So that's why they threw so many resources in. So as you can see, the battle was really intense from one side to the other, and I think you would agree, extremely close here of who was going to win. I think from what I can see here, there's only one Brutii unit left now. All the other allied units have now been routed, I believe. As I say, you can see how intense the fighting was. There you go, and he just admitted defeat, so that's, I would think, will be the end of the battle there.
Victory all the same!
The first thing I'd like to say is really well played to everybody in the game, and as you can see, it is a close victory. I think it's a very close victory there. I'd just like to say really well done to Odin. Some good kills there, 1,818. Well done to him. And really well done to Cleomenes too, 1,810. That's some really nice kills there. And just say, unfortunately, Mohammed, because he was clobbered on that left flank, he didn't get a chance to use the full potential of his army, so that's why he only got 851 kills. Conan and Vet Plague did very well there, I thought, with the kills they got. And so did Hades, Dabby, and I think it was Beast there. So really well done to Cleomenes, Hades, Dabby, and Beast. Really well played, guys. Some nice kills there, and really well done to Mohammed, Conan, Vet Plague, and Odin. Really well played, guys. I'd just like to say, I guess there's some ex-RTW players that like watching these games, and maybe players that have never played RTW before. Maybe you play other Total War games. But if ever you fancy a game, please come on Friday or Saturday night. That's when most of the 31k players come on. And if the battle that you come into us with is interesting and exciting, you may well see yourself on YouTube, because we always try and put on our most exciting and interesting battles. So as I say, if you fancy a game on RTW, please come on Friday and Saturday. As I say, that's when most of the good 31k players come on, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the battles. Let's just have a look at Cleomenes' kills there. If you notice his pikemen, can you see the cavalry there? A little bit disappointed with the kills of the cavalry, bearing in mind the upgrades that were on that cavalry. But if you notice, can you see his first two pike units there have killed over 200 men. So that's really good there. Lots of good kills there for his pikemen. And just say, I hope you really enjoyed this battle. And this is Spartan Commander saying, look forward to seeing you soon. And bye for now.